Christian Parenting.
Welcome to the Christian Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Steph Thurling. I'm the Executive Director of Christian Parenting, a mom of 3, and I am so glad that you're here. This is a place where you can bring your real self, no matter what that looks like today, and be given the space, resources, and encouragement you need to set aside perfection and grow into the perfectly imperfect parent God made you to be.
Just because breastfeeding is natural doesn't mean it's easy. But you don't have to do it alone. That's where the Lactation Network comes in. The Lactation Network helps parents at every stage of the breastfeeding journey. Whether you need support resolving feeding issues, choosing the right breast pump, creating a plan for weaning, or anything in between. The Lactation Network is the largest network of licensed breastfeeding experts in the country. They provide in-home, in-office, and telehealth consultations in all 50 states with no out-of-pocket cost. Get the breastfeeding care you deserve with the Lactation Network. Visit tln.care/podcast to schedule your own insurance-covered lactation consultation today.
If you have ever felt overwhelmed, burnt out, inadequate, or discouraged as a mom, like everyone probably has, this episode is for you. Alli Worthington is joining me today, and we are talking about how modern motherhood is broken and what we can do to fix it. Alli wrote her new book, Remaining You While Raising Them, just for moms to support you in your parenting journey. Alli emphasizes how important self-awareness is as a mom. She challenges mothers to ask themselves questions like, what is my mothering style? What things trigger mom guilt in my life? And what can I do to change this? She reminds us that parenting priorities vary from mom to mom, and that's okay because God made us each so unique. And on top of that, He gave us unique kids as well. She really challenges us to drop the comparison game and lean into the life that God has called us to with the giftings He has blessed us with. Alli is the best mom friend that we all need. She's a wife, a mom, an author, a business coach, and a podcaster. She is straightforward yet encouraging, approachable and real, but convicting in a really good way. I know that you're going to enjoy what she has to share with us. Hi, Alli. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I am so excited for this conversation. So I kind of told you before we started recording, but 2 days ago, I had a meltdown because I started, and people may not really know this who are listening, but I started in this role, Executive Director of Christian Parenting, in September. And it has not been a year yet. So it's been not that long. And before that, I was at home for 10 years. I'm sort of in this big transition from stay-at-home mom to working mom. And there's a lot of mom guilt there. Lots of feelings, lots of emotions. I was struggling the other day. My son was struggling the other day. And I looked at my husband and I was like, I'm so tired. I'm doing so much. I have nothing left to give anyone. And yet no one's getting anything they need, including me. And I just was like melting down. And I stopped and I thought, what do I need? And that's the question that we're going to get to later and why that's significant, because that is what your new book is about. What do moms need? So we're going to get all about that. I'm super excited about our conversation. But before we go into all that, I want to talk about you a little bit so we can get to know you. So can you tell us about yourself, your family, and then give me one word that describes your family?
Oh, yes. Okay. I am an author, an entrepreneur, podcaster, and spend most of my time working with other women as a business coach. My family is amazing, but that's not the one word. I have a different word. There's 5 boys. That's my claim to fame. My husband always say, and my husband and I always say it's amazing that we survived raising 5 boys. The youngest is 15, the oldest is 24, and then I have a grown stepdaughter who's a little bit older. And a word that describes our family, testosterone. There's so much. There's me. I also have a female dog, but growing up where it was just me and 6 guys, it's just a lot of testosterone. It's a lot of bad jokes. It's a lot of off-color humor. It's a lot of sports equipment and dog hair all over everywhere. That is our family.
I have only 2 boys, and I feel like it's a lot sometimes. So 5 is a lot. We have a lot of baseball equipment all over my house all the time. I'm like, why don't we just put this in the garage? Right in the garage, not in the entryway. But that's where it always lives.
Life with boys. Yeah. It's super fun, but it's wild.
Oh, absolutely. I love my boys, but it is. Wild is a good word too. I would accept wild as your word as well. I always ask, what's one thing that you want every parent to know?
If there's a parent listening that worries if they're doing a good enough job, they are doing a great job. Because there is a fear in every great mom that she's not a good enough mom. But the fact that women are worrying that they're not good enough moms shows that they're already great moms. For instance, if in a therapist office, you never have a narcissist walk in and go, can you help me? I think I'm a narcissist and I need to work through it. They just don't go for help. Bad moms are not listening to this podcast. Bad moms are not reading my book. Great moms are doing it. You couldn't pay a bad mom to read it. You couldn't pay a bad mom to listen to this podcast. But we hold ourselves to such impossible standards that we think if we're not doing everything right and growing our own organic wheat in the backyard to make sandwiches for the kids at lunch, that we're terrible, you know? I dove into research for this and found that as moms, we only have to get it right 50% of the time to raise great kids and be great moms. So if we have that bar to leap over, we can give ourselves grace. So anybody that worries, oh, I'm not doing enough as a parent, I'm not loving enough and attentive enough, and I wish I could change everything around, you're already a great parent, because having that worry is what great parents do. Bad parents don't worry about it.
Okay, I loved that research that you had, that you only have to get it right 50% of the time. There's like so much freedom in that. There's a lot of stuff in your book that, I already gushed about it. It has been really helpful for me in managing some mom guilt and working through some things. So I'm excited for everybody to hear about it today and to hopefully go get their own copy and read it. So it's called Remaining You While Raising Them. And it's not a parenting book. It's a motherhood book. And in it, you make a pretty bold statement that kind of sounds harsh, but I think in our hearts, we all know it's true. You say that modern motherhood is broken. And I want to talk about that a little bit. Like, what do you mean by that? And how does that impact us as moms if it's broken?
Well, I really came to the realization, 'cause I had my own personal feelings about it, but I sent a survey out to my email list and over 1,000 women chimed in. And I asked, how often do you deal with mom guilt? 96% of women said they deal with mom guilt often. I asked, what's the last book you read on motherhood? And most couldn't name one. They gave some parenting books, but a lot of women who read, especially parenting books that had been written by men, they gave the names of them and said, I really wish I hadn't read it, or I felt worse after I read this than when I started, or this made me feel like I needed to do 15 more things than I ever should. And I thought, this is completely broken for us. As moms, we aren't doing anything for ourselves. And we have this sky-high standard of perfection that we hold ourselves to that past generations of moms never did. Not at all. And then on top of that, we have what causes most of the mom guilt. So again, according to over 1,000 women, when I said, what's the number one trigger of mom guilt? It wasn't our husbands. It wasn't our mother-in-law. It wasn't us. It was social media. So we have our beloved, I love my phone. If anyone tells me to give up my phone, I would never do it. We have our beloved phones and we open up Instagram or TikTok, whatever it is. And what happens is we're having a good day, but we see image after image after image of perfect families and all the kids match and even the dog is smiling. And we look around and our kids are having tantrums and the dog has thrown up on the carpet. And we tell ourselves, all these women are getting it right. And somehow I'm not working hard enough and I'm not good enough. When actually other people are just sharing their highlight reels, or they have a business, like as an influencer, projecting perfection. And it's a business model, but it's not reality. So with that, how can modern motherhood not be broken? But with this message, I hope to offer women another way to say, it may be broken and it may feel like it's breaking us, but it doesn't have to be that way in the future.
I think one of the hard things is that we know it's broken. Like we know social media isn't real, but it still affects us anyway, right? Like we still can't get off of it and we still can't get it out of our heads. Like it's just like this vicious cycle that we're stuck in, and it is absolutely damaging. One of the things that you also talk about a lot, and something that I've been struggling with, is parenting priorities, especially as I have been transitioning from stay at home to working. Like, where are my priorities? Where are my priorities for my family? And one of the things you say is that good moms can have different priorities and still be good moms. So I want to talk about that a little bit, because I think we see that on social media.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, let's go to social media a little bit, and then we'll go into priorities more in depth. With social, especially when we're following influencers have an obsession. Maybe that obsession is fitness, or that obsession is natural beauty, or that obsession is a certain parenting style with kids. And like, that's their thing. That's what they're talking about most of the time. So when we open it up, that's what they're going to talk about. And we're going to go, oh, I'm not really obsessed with this. And we feel bad about it. But to manage social, I think it's really important that we spend a little bit of time, maybe a month, and we notice how we feel on it. And the accounts that trigger mom guilt and the accounts that make us feel worse about our real life, we just mute them or we unfollow them. Like if I open up social media, it's going to be educational accounts. It's going to be animals. I'm a sucker for animals. I'm a roller coaster.
Like 15 zoos.
Yes. See? And are you ever sad, or do you ever get mom guilt when you look at zoo content?
No, Fiona and Fritz at the Cincinnati Zoo make me very happy.
See? Or like, I'm a roller coaster enthusiast. I'm looking at roller coasters. My friend Jenny Allen talked about a few years ago, she got obsessed with watching people throw pots. So that was her Instagram feed. So just giving ourselves permission to go, all this stuff that triggers mom guilt that isn't benefiting my life, but is actually upsetting me. Like the more time I spend on this, the more depressed or the more unhappy I am with my life, we can just unfollow it. We don't have to follow it because everyone else does. So just pay attention to the accounts that make you feel bad about yourself, and then move away from those. And, whatever it is that floats your boat, go heavy into that. That's a way that we can make social media great again. But priorities are really important. Priorities come from knowing what is important for your unique family. The best way to think about this is, it's a quick story. I used to love being a bedtime mom with my kids because I worked during the day. I was a work from home mom. So I would snuggle in bed with every single boy every night. And we'd get in bed, and sometimes I'd tell a story, depending on the boy. A lot of the boys just wanted to watch YouTube videos with me for like 10 minutes. And that's what we did. And I was telling a friend about bedtime routine. She goes, oh, I am done by bedtime. I'm just yelling at them to get in bed. And then I say a prayer. And then I want to slam the door and be done. And I was like, I get that. She said, maybe I need a bedtime routine. So she tried it. And then a couple months later, I saw her at church and said, how did it go with bedtime routine? And she goes, I hated it. I did it for 3 nights and I realized I'm not a bedtime mom. I'm a morning mom. She wakes up at 5 a.m. naturally. She's happy at 5 a.m. She'll read to her kids. She'll do all this stuff early in the morning. And she was like, no, bedtime moms, that's not me. I'm a morning mom. And it's just a great example of what we prioritize being what's actually good for us. Because we can read an article and we can read a book and somebody's told us this is the way to do it. But if it's not our priority and what doesn't fit for us, we're going to be miserable at it. And that is going to leak out on our children. So just giving ourselves permission to go, here's what I prioritize. I prioritize, maybe it is natural food and you are growing all your own organic food. More power to you, if that's your thing. Whatever it is that you prioritize, it is okay to prioritize that because you love it, it fulfills you, and it works for your family. God is not in heaven going, I had such great plans for those kids, but look at how they are parenting and look at what they prioritize. I guess everything's screwed up. We aren't God. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he gives us the children he gives us because our unique character and our personality is perfect to raise those kids. If we think that by being who we are is going to damage our kids, it's like we don't trust God that he placed us together perfectly.
Yeah, that is such a good reminder. And it's so true. And I think it kind of reminds me, so different kids, different moms, different callings, different wirings, like we're all unique. So we can't be doing everything the same. I think that's a beautiful freedom to give people. But you talk in your book about different mothering styles. I think there's 5 of them. Is that right?
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I feel like that kind of relates too. So why do you talk about mothering styles? How does that kind of relate to priorities and who you are as a mom? And how does that give us some freedom too?
Well, I think self-awareness is a super healthy thing. I've always, as a leader with the women that I work with and for myself, kind of gone deep into self-awareness, because if you are leading your children or you are leading a company, if we aren't self-aware and know where our strengths are and know where our weaknesses are, we're going to do a lot of damage to ourselves and other people. So I think sometimes we worry and we go, oh, I don't want to dive too deep into what makes me unique or where my strengths are because I don't want to be prideful. Well, pride is just having an accurate representation of yourself, not too, you're not too big for your britches, but you also don't think you're a worm. It's accurate. That's real humility. Pride is thinking you're great at all things all the time. So with increased self-awareness, to know where our strengths are, to know where our weaknesses are, we know where to lean in heavy with our unique personality. Me, I'm a cheerleader mom. I'm always going to be the mom who is saying, it's okay, dust yourself off. Here's the silver lining. Here's where to go. But the weakness of that, I know, is me not giving my children enough space and sitting with them in their pain. So you want to know your strength. I'm a great cheerleader. I'm going to dust you off. I'm going to tell you it's okay. I'm going to tell you what we're doing tomorrow and let's go ride roller coasters. But the weakness of that is also maybe sometimes your kids just need you to sit with them and say, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I hate that for you. Let's pray together about it. Talk to me about your emotions. So we want to know where our strengths are, but then at the same time, we find real freedom to know where we might need a little bit of help.
As a working mom, 2 of my goals for the new year are to take better care of myself and simplify. And one of the ways I'm doing that is with HelloFresh. There's a reason HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. They make it so simple. All I have to do is pick my meals and my delivery date, and all of the pre-portioned ingredients and step-by-step instructions come right to my door. That means less hassle, less wasted food, and they have health-forward options like over 30 calorie-smart and protein-smart recipes each week. The recipe cards are easy to follow and they're full of pictures, so it makes cooking with my kids really fun too. And we all know that when they are involved in the cooking, they're more likely to eat it, so everyone wins. We have a great deal for you right now because I know that mornings can be crazy as a parent. I often find myself forgetting breakfast or grabbing something really fast. But you can go to hellofresh.com/CPPodcastFree and use the code CPPodcastFree for free breakfast for life. That's 1 breakfast item per box while the subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at hellofresh.com/CPPodcastFree with the code CPPodcastFree.
So can you tell us, because I think this is really helpful for parents, can you tell us what the different types of mothering styles are that you talk about?
Yeah, I'll go through them real quickly. There's a caring mom, and the caring mom's superpower is encouragement. If you're a caring mom, you're helpful and generous and nurturing. I love this name. There's the ride or die mom, and that superpower is loyalty. That means you're trustworthy, strong, and steady. There's the protector mom. The superpower is commitment, and a protector mom is a mama bear. I almost called her the mama bear mom, but I thought that might be a little too much. And then there's the idealist mom. And the idealist superpower is excellence. And idealists are principled, responsible, and trustworthy. And then finally, the cheerleader mom. The superpower is joy. And you're future-focused, energetic, and positive. Now, these are in the book. They're also up on my website. So you can go to alliworthington.com, Mom Superpower. And I kind of go into each strengths, weaknesses, things to work on, but really just leaning into how God made us and then trusting that God knew what he was doing, placing our kids with us. It's really powerful.
I think what's interesting is that we do all of that stuff professionally. Like when you're in a job, you're always trying to figure out, what am I good at? What are my weaknesses? You have an annual review and you go over these things, but nobody's doing that for moms, and it's not really encouraged. And it's not really anything that we talk about, but I think you're right that it's really good to know your strengths and your weaknesses. And if you're self-aware about it, then you can go look through that Instagram feed and be like, well, that's so awesome that mom is really good at that and I'm not. And that's okay. But you have to be aware.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to the culture of broken motherhood of you got to do this. You have to do this. If you don't do these 10 things, your kids are going to be ruined. And, all of those things that people are speaking over women. And if we aren't caring for ourselves, we're not going to have anything to give to the kids. So you have a generation of moms, this generation, we've just been dying on the vine for so long because we've given it all to our kids. And I think one of the big premises of the book is your children are never going to be more emotionally healthy while they live with you than you are. I mean, we all want our kids to love the Lord and to give and receive love and to take personal responsibility and, do all of these things and be emotionally healthy. But we forget that if more is caught than taught, we need to take care of ourselves so our daughters and our sons can catch that.
Okay, so that brings me back to what I said at the beginning, where I had a meltdown literally just 2 days ago. And because I'm feeling burnt out, like I am super tired. And because I've been preparing for this interview and I've been reading your book, I stopped and I said, what do I need? Because I realized I can't give more to anyone. I can't do my job well. I can't raise my kids well. I can't be a good wife. I can't do all these things if I'm not taking care of myself. So why is that the best question ever for moms, but also the hardest question?
Well, I'm impressed that you didn't put that little change on the end that I put in there because I call it the magic question habit. And I tell the story that most women, when asked, what do I need, go, I don't even know. It's been so long since I thought about myself. And so I kind of changed it to what do I need right now? Because it seems less overwhelming. What we want to do is we want to kind of think about motherhood as a whole. When that baby is little tiny, we have to be there all the time. We don't really get to have needs, with a newborn. Like that's what our life is focused on. I remember when I had 5 under 10, that's when I was working as a stay-home mom. Every day it was just keeping those children alive and doing the best I could. You know what I mean? And I didn't have a lot of time for myself. But as our kids get older, we need to give ourselves more and more permission to mother ourselves, just like we mother our children, because we want to teach our daughters that it's okay to be aware of when they have needs. We don't want to raise daughters that are only focused on pleasing other people and don't even realize they have permission to recognize that they have needs and desires. The Lord says He will fulfill all of our needs and He'll take care of us. But the underlying truth there is that we do have needs, and it is good that we have needs. When we live our lives putting our needs on our shelves, it can make us more likely to burn out. It can make us more likely to lose our temper, but it can also sow seeds of bitterness. I remember when I was 8, going to visit an extended relative for Christmas, Aunt Shirley. And Aunt Shirley had been cooking for days, and she told us all that she had been cooking for days. And I remember not knowing what was going on because I didn't really have the language and I didn't understand it at the time, but I knew something was wrong, and I knew that it was making me not enjoy that holiday. And it wasn't until I was older and she passed and I could understand from other family members what was happening. She actually never wanted to cook, but she didn't know she had permission to raise her hand and go, hey, what if everybody brought a dish? So what happened is she would spend all of these days cooking, not understanding, hey, I have a need. My need is I don't want to do all this alone. Never raising her hand and do that. So by the time we got there, she kind of had an undercurrent of bitterness. So what she thought she was doing out of love, she was actually kind of guaranteeing that the people around her couldn't have a good time. And that was a lesson that I learned as a little girl, but it's a lesson I'm constantly relearning as a mom. because I can bend over backwards and I can ignore myself and not take care of myself. But if I do, I'll end up burned out, depressed, or bitter. And I can't begin to pretend that won't affect my children. So I think motherhood is more about who we are than what we do. And sometimes being a great mother means we're actually doing a little bit less.
Yeah, I think people now really need to hear that, because I think you also said in your book, like, we are a generation that's more hands-on with our kids than any other generation, yet we still don't feel like we're doing enough. Like, I still feel like I could be doing more with my kids all the time. Like, I still feel guilty.
A lot of that is social media, because there are entire industries and business models set on, here's what you should be doing to raise a child that X. Here's what you should be doing as a good mom. It's a great business model for other people because they're selling products, or they're getting YouTube views or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But we have to remember that's someone's business model, and we actually can trust ourselves for what we need and for what our kids need. If you look at the research in this book, I wanted to make sure everything I said was backed up by decades of research with thousands of people. All of the decisions that we make in the first year, most of them long-term don't really matter. Breast or bottle, co-sleeping, sleeping in a crib. But there are entire industries built, not just for that first year, but all throughout a child's life, to convince you it has to be done this way. When most of the time, that's just somebody's opinion.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think about all the amount of time I panicked about feeding my kids when they were babies. Like, nobody cares anymore. Nobody at their doctor appointments are like, was this 11-year-old bottle fed or breastfed? Like, they don't ask that anymore. But in my head, it was so important.
Yeah, from a scientific perspective, there's no long-term benefits either way. But I mean, and also potty training. All 5 of my boys, they potty trained about the same time. I'll tell you, they won't mind me saying, about 3.5. Whether I started at 18 months or I let them figure it out on their own. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. But man, there are podcasts and there are books. And if you don't do this, your kid is ruined. I mean, how can we not be broken by this messaging when there are, like I say, entire industries dedicated to convincing us we're doing it wrong?
Totally. So I have 2 boys and then a girl. So after I had potty trained my 2 boys, everyone's like, well, girls are easier to potty train and they do it younger. So when she hit like 18 months, they're like, are you going to potty train her? And I'm like, yes, because she's a girl. So she's going to do it. And this is going to be great. And it was not great. I set up my little area with the station and all the special drinks she got to have and her treats. And I was like, we're going to potty train today. And she picked up her potty. It was empty, her little training potty. And she chucked it across the room and stomped her foot and was like, I am not potty training. And we had to battle the wills for a few days and I lost. But she didn't potty train until 3.5. And everyone's like, but she's a girl. She should have done it younger. I'm like, well, she didn't. So
yeah, I mean, we're unique moms. Our kids are unique. And once we give ourselves permission, and also when we arm ourselves with wisdom, not just biblical wisdom, but when we arm ourselves with wisdom of research that's been done, again, thousands and thousands of kids over decades, and we go, actually, it doesn't matter. What matters is character. What matters is how we teach our kids to love the Lord. What matters is how we mess things up and then we make it right in front of our kids. What matters is all the character stuff. Cutting up grapes into 18 pieces or store-bought or homemade applesauce, it doesn't matter. What age we potty train, it doesn't matter. I say in the book, my kids were all raised on TV. I had a valedictorian. It doesn't rot the brain. What matters is that we're giving kids positive role models on TV to watch. I wasn't letting him watch Terminator. He was watching Blue's Clues and things like that. So once we change things from what quote unquote should be done to, is this a character issue? Then it gives us a lot of freedom to give ourselves grace and let ourselves off the hook and kind of go, is this a character issue for my children? Or is this the parenting industry making me feel bad?
I think the parenting industry also can lead us down this road, not just towards bitterness, like you were talking about, but also confusion. And not in like, what do I do? Which book is right? Because you can find one thing and then another book will tell you it's the wrong. But also, I feel like I hear so many people who their kids leave the house and then they're like, well, now what do I do? Because I spent the last 18 years focused only on what I'm supposed to be doing with my kids. Yeah. And not all of it mattered. The character stuff did, but now what? Like, now what do I do?
Oh, yeah. And I think that it is one of those things. I mean, I will say growing up, all I wanted to be was a stay-home mom. And I wanted a big, huge family. And I had 10 years where I could just be a stay-home mom. It was great. But then something happened in our family. My husband lost his job in 2007. And by 2008, we lost our home. We lost almost everything we owned. When my youngest was 5 weeks old, that's when we lost everything. So I knew I was moving into a season where God was having me work so I could help out because I knew it would take both of us. And for me, if I didn't have the financial pressure to keep going and keep building, I probably would have let mom guilt get to me and stop. And I think that God kept me just pressured enough so I couldn't quit. And I think that for a lot of us, when we've received a messaging that like a woman's highest calling in life is to be a mother, I would say my greatest joy this side of heaven is to be a mother. You know, if I talk about my love for my kids more than a couple minutes, I'll be a crying mess. But my highest calling in life is not to be a mother. My highest calling in life is to be a worshiper of God. Amen. And I will have seasons where I'm a stay-home mom with the kid. I have seasons work from home, but God's calling me to do a lot of different things, not just be a mom. And if a woman is lucky enough, you know, to have all of those years where she gets to be a stay-home mom, it's great. But again, the process of making sure we remain us while we raise them will protect us from when they leave going, is that all there is? And being really disappointed and lonely in that time.
Yeah. Okay, so to wrap it up, because we're almost out of time, what do you think, speaking to all of the moms, so the working mom, the stay-at-home mom, the new mom, the mom of older kids, like, what's something that we can do that can help us to like change the face of modern motherhood? Like something that will make it not broken, but actually manageable and healthy?
I think talking about this is the most important thing we can do. One of the habits I give for healthy motherhood is to really invest in our friendships, because the research says that friendships are our happiest relationships. Like our families give us deep joy and satisfaction, but our girlfriends make us happy. Healthy girlfriends, not the girlfriends that make us feel worse when we're with them. But get with your girlfriends and talk about this stuff. Like I have free book club materials for the book. Read it together, empower each other. The more that we get together, whether it's 2 women or 5 women or 10 women, and we have these conversations, that's how we change things, because we're not islands. We can't do it alone. But the more we talk about it, the more we get together as moms and women and go, let's dive into this. What do we think? What's making you feel bad? Okay, how are we going to work on this? That's how we change motherhood. And that's how it doesn't have to stay broken.
Okay, so where can people connect with you and then get your book and all those resources?
Oh, yeah. AlliWorthington.com. Alli Worthington on social media, and the podcast is the Alli Worthington Show. And whenever you get the book, you can just enter information on the website and I'll email it to you, or there's QR codes in the book. I also have a special thing on the Audible version of this book. We recorded a whole bonus training on how to lighten the mental load and with scripts of how to talk to your husband and your loved ones to get the help you need.
Oh, that's amazing. I'll put all that in show notes. People can find it easily. And I'm going to go listen to that probably right now. Thank you so much for being on. I truly cannot emphasize enough how much I love this message. And I think it's just going to help a lot of people. So thank you for sharing it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being a bright light out there for moms and never making them feel bad, always encouraging and always doing the right thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have all the links in the show notes for you. Remember, if you are feeling overwhelmed today, slow down and ask yourself, what do I need? And if that's too much, narrow it down even more to what do I need right now? Take care of yourself so you can take care of those around you. I hope that you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for being here with us. May God bless you and your family. May you be filled with the Holy Spirit and hear God's voice as you nurture your soul. God loves you, God cares for you, and He wants to give you the physical and spiritual rest that you need.
Thank you so much for listening to the Christian Parenting Podcast. If you haven't subscribed, you can do that now, and that way you won't miss an episode. You can connect with us on Instagram at ChristianParenting_org and see more resources at ChristianParenting.org. And if you're a mom raising daughters, we have the perfect course for you. Visit cpguides.org to learn more about our Helping Moms Raise Confident Daughters online courses. And lastly, if you have enjoyed this podcast or other Christian parenting resources, please consider donating to this ministry. Visit christianparenting.org and click the donate button. Christian Parenting is 100% donor funded, and none of this would be possible without your help. We are so grateful for you. You're amazing. God bless you.